Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. There's going to be a lot of inspiration in this show here today. Got a new friend from across the pond, all the way from England, to share her story. She's an author, got a great book, not quite out yet at the time of the recording here or the live show that we're doing, but it'll be out soon. We want to talk about that and her journey. Jessica, thanks for joining Champions of Inspiration.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
So let's go ahead and share your story a little bit, if you would, and help people understand the book and where we're going with all this.
So I could read you my about the author, which kind of sums up everything. My name's Jessica. I am 31. I live in London in the UK, so I sound a bit different to Scott. And I wrote my about the author. It says, Jessica is a swimming teacher from Northwest London. She's taught all age groups in Spain and Greece in all-inclusive hotels, as well as dancing, singing, and helping all the guests on holiday. As well as working abroad, she's traveled a lot with her family while manifesting anything she wanted. After a horrible, incurable cancer diagnosis, plus reading about spirituality during lockdown, she realized she had a gift for writing to heal others. Jessica's free writing surprises her as she is channeled by a higher power. Jessica thinks more people need to have awakenings to experience freedom and the true love of life that was always within them. They just forgot it was there. So this is the book, Protected Awakenings. This is my copy, my draft copy that I've written all over. And it's just a story. My subtitle is opening your heart to guidance and synchronicities. And when I wrote the book, it was more, the whole thing is my journey of how I had faith and carried on through this diagnosis that I had during the pandemic, and how I wanted to write a positive spin off of cancer. That's really what it is for me. So, yeah.
So you get this horrible diagnosis. And again, you talk about being able to manifest anything, but you certainly didn't want to manifest that. But how about the manifesting the healing from that? What was your journey there?
So my great friend Daniela Jukic, she does a call on gratitude from the book The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And in the book, there's a chapter on miracles in health and manifesting great health. And when I remember when I was lying in hospital and I was reading the chapter, and I thought, wow, you can manifest great health. It sounds amazing. Sounds great. Didn't really think it was possible. It was one of those things. And step by step, journaling a lot, writing things down. I remember the day I wrote, thank you that I'm cancer free, and closed the book and didn't think much of it. And while the rest of the world were praying for me, that's exactly what happened. And that day came like that. So, yeah.
So what was that time frame? How long? I mean, again, I know that I was talking to some folks who regularly watch the show, and I said, well, you got to hear Jessica's story, because she basically manifested her way back to health, away from cancer. And they were like, oh my God, we got to hear that story. So I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit.
So I remember writing that down in, I think it was maybe October 2020 was when I was diagnosed. And then I think two months after that, after Christmas, I started writing and really thinking about what I really, really wanted in my life, like how I wanted to just be back to normal. And I thought it was impossible. And then February, I'd say October, November, December, January, February, 4 or 5 months, I think it took. And then my doctor said, they didn't even say you're in remission. They said it's time to stop all the tablets. And I was like, what? I went from 13 tablets to 0 in 5 months.
Wow. And so basically, was it a meditation on those thoughts, or just being grateful for your upcoming better health?
It was a mixture of things. I did a meditation on visualization on YouTube. And I believe that in the magic, they talk about holding a magic rock. And when I was in hospital, I didn't have a magic rock. I had this hairband, which was it's like a Mickey Mouse hairband. It was a scrunchie that I had. And I used to hold it every night. And I used to visualize myself walking around because I couldn't walk. I broke my back in 3 places and I was bedbound. And I thought, I just dream of walking out the door, walking across the room. So every day I used to just close my eyes at night and just visualize waking up, sitting on the edge of my bed, the sun shining through the window, stretching my back, and there was no pain, and just walking, just looking at my feet step by step. And every night I used to visualize that all the time.
Wow. It amazes me that you could put yourself in that after state, right? After being healed and being able to visualize that. How powerful were those visualizations?
They were powerful. And I think the more that you watch these shows like The Secret and you see more visualization exercises, you start to see this kind of, it's hard to explain, but the way I see it is it's like everything's in slow motion. When you watch a film and they zoom in on something, that's visualization for me. It's zooming in on something and saying, this is as it is. This is the state that we're really in. And it's telling your mind that that's what you're going to see. That picture is going to keep playing and playing and playing. And I think that really helped me. That helped me a lot to focus on that and come out of it and be okay with that it wasn't a reality, but I can go there and spend some time just focusing and then let it go. So yeah.
So that was only, like you say, about 5 months in that process.
Well, I mean, the whole process has been, coming up to a year now that I lost all my hair. And because I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is bone cancer and blood cancer, it's more common in elderly people. So it softens the bones and it kind of it ruins everything. So I think that it took a while for my immune system to come back. They had a whole plan for me, which I had nurses that said, oh, you'll only need a little bit of chemo and you'll be fine. But when you look at the whole plan, because I was diagnosed in 2020, it's now 2022. So some people can say it's taken 2 years for me to feel like I'm back to normal. But yeah, it's been a year since I had my stem cell and my chemo. So the 10th of July, I came out of hospital last year, and then my brother shaved my head the next day. So when I got to the 10th of July this year, I thought, oh, wow, has it really been a year? It's gone fast.
Wow. So let's delve into the book then. So what did you decide to do with what you've lived, and what gave you the desire to start to write the book?
So I did a course with Gabrielle Bernstein, who has been my inspiration. She's amazing. And there was a meditation in the program she did. She did a course called the Bestseller Masterclass. And I was still, my back was still healing. I was still in my back brace, and I decided I'm going to start writing. I'm going to see where this takes me, because I was always journaling, always writing things down for myself, but never in any other way. I did want to write a book, but I like science fiction. I like sort of make believe. I like romance novels, stuff like that. I never thought I would write a book about my own life or something that's real. So I did this meditation, and in the meditation, she says, what does the world need to hear from you? What's the message that you need to give the world? And you come out of the meditation and then you have to write. And she says, don't edit anything, just let the pen flow and see what comes out. So this is what I had written. I had written protected, guidance, synchronicities, and angelic support. Love, joy, and guidance in the sea of God, moving in and out to completely let go of what was. Breathe into what is beginning and what's ending. Be guided in the knowing that everything will be all right. We are all protected in a circle in this vortex of love that we call life. We see love, we feel love, we want love, and we are love. When we are protected, we can see all the light and love around us when we depart from anxiety and despair. We lose sight of what's important, who needs us, and how a higher power is following us and constantly moving towards the next step to heal us and guide us to the love that was always there and available to us. Always. He is called God. So that was what I had written. And then I looked at it really confused because I didn't understand anything. And then I had to unpack that whole page completely.
So it was part of the free flow, the brain dump, and that's unfortunately what most first time authors or younger authors don't, younger meaning not as experienced, don't tend to do. They're trying to be critical and edit. You can't edit and write at the same time. You just got to let it flow. And then you go back and go, ooh, what the hell was I thinking there? So what was that process like, going back now and unpacking that and help everybody understand what let's just go through bits and pieces of that for a little bit.
So after I had written that, I had to go through a process of thinking of 12 stories that I would put together. And I had to think about writing paragraphs on those 12 stories. So there was a point where we were told not to think of chapter titles, to think about the paragraphs. So then I started to think of stories that happened recently, situations where I felt protected, and also this kind of guidance and knowledge that the prayers that people were praying actually were coming to life and they were really happening, which I think when our prayers are answered, we say thank you and we go, oh yeah, that's great. But we don't actually look back and go, wow, this is why this connected and this is why that connected. So those chapters are my connections of each step, I think.
Well, I think one of the things that I put in my book is the 3 parts of faith, and they align with ask, believe, receive. You first have to ask for what your situation is or what you want it to be. You have to believe in fact that it's possible and it's on its way. And then once it shows up, you have to willingly accept and receive it and take it in. And that's really the completion of faith. It's all 3 parts of it. And so whatever you choose to call God, whatever is your higher source, however it be delivered, whether it be ask, believe, receive, or, just run the process of being faithful in what you're looking for. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. And that's another thing in my book. I've spoken about a higher power in many different ways, so that people can understand it the way that they view the world or view spirituality. And that I have a chapter that's similar, like you said, about ask, believe, receive, where there was one time where I asked for a sign because I was reading about spirituality so much, and the whole chapter is me thinking. It's not anything I said out loud. Everything I was I was like I was having this whole conversation in the book. I've said, I'm not sure if it was my higher self talking to God, or if it was me talking to God, or it was like this argument I was having with God in my head. And the fact that I've written it down is alarming to me, because it's not a conversation I would have with people every day. But the fact that I didn't even open my mouth, and I asked for a sign and I got a sign within 2 hours of me thinking it, I started to realize that if you ask, then it will appear in front of you. And then you're like, what?
So what was that realization like?
It was a lot. There was a day where I said to myself that it was my fault that I'm ill and all this stuff. And I said, my sign is to see someone dressed all in white. So that day I went to hospital and I had my appointment and everything was fine. And I had to go to the pharmacy. I was waiting at the pharmacy and I went on Sean's call. I remember I was on my phone and I logged in and I'm sitting there and there was this white guy and he had a white jacket, white trainers, he had white socks. And I'm sitting there like, 2 hours ago, I asked for someone wearing white and everyone's wearing black. I didn't see anyone wearing white, nothing. And then I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to feel. I just remember saying, if it wasn't my fault, I need a sign. If everything's going to be okay, I need a sign. If people are telling me that I'm dangerously ill, I need a sign, because I can't trust anyone. I couldn't trust my doctor. I couldn't put my head around what they were saying to me. So that sign to me was, I'm going to hold your hand. You don't have anything to worry about. That was a lot. I remember journaling thinking, is this real? Are you really here all the time? And it was like, yes. How many signs do you need?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's and again, hopefully, I know, because I was sharing about people coming to hear your story. Like I say, people that come regularly to watch the show. And I said, I've only heard parts of it, and the parts I've heard are fascinating, but so why didn't you believe your doctors? Why didn't you believe the people who were saying that you were horrendously ill?
I believed them, but when I had my stem cell, for example, I think was the most traumatic, is that so I had my stem cell. What they did is they took the cells from my body, and usually sometimes they have to take stem cells from other people. They need a match. And yeah, so they did the collection, and then when I went to have them put back into my body, I went in, I was in a ward, and they gave me 1 day of chemo, and it's the strongest chemo apparently. So they kept telling me that's going to be the hardest because your body has such an impact on it. So I had the chemo, and people were coming into the ward and they were sitting down talking to me, and I had one person say, this is the end of the road. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm young. I've been told that you've taken stem cells from me, so it's going to be easier. And now I've got people telling me this is the end. This is going to be hard. You're going to feel awful. It's going to be terrible. And then I had someone else say, oh, I have a really good leaflet for you. So they give me this leaflet. And it was supposed to be for my age range. It said between 30 and 40. So I opened the leaflet feeling strange, thinking I shouldn't be looking at this. And it said, if you're 30, this is how to plan your bereavement. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't believe this. Like, I'm getting one message here and then another message there. And that was the moment I ripped it up and I put it in the bin, and I said, you don't need to listen to any of this. There's nothing for survivors. It's the end of the road, or you're absolutely fine. You don't have to be in hospital. There's no in between. They don't know how to handle the in between. So that it was everything I heard, I took with a pinch of salt. Every doctor that spoke to me, I was like, I'm going to look that up. Everything.
Well, I think it's interesting. It's one of the driving forces for my last book, That Sucks, What Now? Real World Solutions for Getting Through What You're Going Through. Because as I came through a near-death experience and was told repeatedly by the medical community, we don't know why you're alive. And at one point, it just kind of frustrated me. Well, at more than one point, but at one point I said, sorry to disappoint you. I've always been an overachiever. I lived, you know, and they were like, well, you're kind of a smart ass, aren't you? And I go, no, not really, but I'm tired of you telling me I'm supposed to be dead, or you don't understand why I'm alive. Obviously I am. Let's work on that part, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was the same thing. I started Googling, went to my best friend Google and started Googling, how long will it take for me to do ... And every piece of information that came up was, oh, you'll never be able to do that again. Or more than likely that'll never happen. Or, I mean, if that would be the nicest way they ever said it, or they would just flat say, get that out of your mind. You're not going to be able to. And I went, I refuse to accept that. So I understand where you are in that place. And I think that's why I wanted to do the show, because I think it's very powerful that we don't, I mean, in the business world, we talk about somebody else's opinion of me is not my concern.
Yes.
But that's never been really, I don't think, brought out in the health world. But it is very similar. If you're not your biggest cheerleader, working to live, who should be?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think it's, again, I want people to hear from your voice that you just said, wait a second, you're already planning my demise. I'm already facing enough stuff. I don't need you guys on that side of it.
Yeah.
Let's get on hey, let's get healthy and live a long, prosperous life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to hear. I think it was hard because when I was in the ward, I remember there were a lot of people around me who had many chemo treatments that didn't work. So they would have to have it again and again. And they kept telling me that my body was gonna be really tough. But yes, I was sick for a few days, and they put a line in my heart. And they gave me a leaflet that said I might have to go home with it and how to get used to it. But when they took it out, my body came back so normal. After I felt better, I felt like I could go for a run. The day I left, I picked up all my bags, and the nurse who was with me, she didn't even help me, because she had one and I had 4 other bags. My mum's going, what are you doing? And I was like, I feel fine. I feel like there's nothing wrong with me. So it was strange to sometimes on the ward. I saw one man who he had 6 rounds of chemo, and he was so frail, and then his family were there, and I thought, why is his family here? No one can have family here. And then I realized that's because he was coming to the end of the road. So then you go through this survivor's guilt, like, so why am I still here?
Yeah.
So it's
what's that like? What's that like when you start to question that?
I think it's hard, because I recently went on Instagram and I saw this page called Young Lives in Cancer, and there's people talking about how they deal with these traumatic things. And I think that survivor's guilt is this kind of, 1 minute you tell yourself, no, I'm fine, and then the next you go, but why did this happen? And it's this in between of, you go in and out of it, where you think you have the answers, but I think that we all view health in different ways. My mum is very, very on top of her health. She drinks cucumber water. She's the healthiest woman ever. She would never let me sit in front of a chocolate bar. And I mean, okay, I don't smoke, I don't drink. And if I did, I think that my body probably would have needed more chemo than others. And I think my mum was constantly reminding doctors of that. And every time they said, this is how it's going to be, she said no, because she's healthier than you think she is. So yeah, it's a battle. And I think ignoring the negative self-talk of yourself that says it's not going to be okay, that is a battle on its own.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I had a full-blown cerebellar stroke. And again, everybody's like, well, that's speech, memory, fine motor skills, walking, talking, vertigo. By the grace of God, I come out like this. And so I understand the same, a little bit of survivor's guilt. You come out and all of a sudden you see somebody who more than likely has had a stroke. They've lost use of one side of their body, or they've lost use of something, right? Can't speak well, or little lag in their speech, or things like that. And it's amazing how, I don't know how it crept in for me either. I just know that there was a little bit of it there. And it was really kind of, for me, it was the focusing on, obviously God must have more plans for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I needed to be whole in that, or more whole. Right. And focus on that. So again, I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier about focus. Right. If you're going, wait a second, I don't believe what you guys are saying, and I'm going to focus on whatever you believe to be the treatments. I'm going to say, yes, they're working. And once I've had the treatments, I'm going to say my body is going to do wonderful things with it. And so again, you talk about, being able to heal others through the words in the book. Share that a little bit, because we're running a little short on time, but I'd love to have your thoughts on that. That really a big part of the book is to help others heal.
Well, that's a hard question, but I think it comes from one of my chapters is on my dear friend Rhonda Bird Parker, and how I remember I spoke to her before I went into hospital, or before I told my family I have to go, and they had no idea why I was saying it and what I was talking about. And she said to me, just say, God, hold my hand. And it was something that I had written down. It was something that I prayed all the time through every chemo injection, everything I faced that I didn't want to do. It was something I said to myself. And then when I was in hospital, I went on Gabby's live on Instagram. And I remember in my journal, I had written down, thank you that I'm on Gabby's live. And then I closed the journal and I thought about something else, because I thought I learned how to manifest things and let them go. If you hold on to it, you're not going to have it. So because I had let it go, I looked down at my phone on my lap and it said, Gabby wants to go live with you. And I'm like, what? So I'm there in hospital in my hospital gown, going live with over 1,000 people. And I thanked her for her book, Super Attractor, which I had read. And then she was talking about her book, The Universe Has Your Back. And she said, have you read it? I said, no, I've never read it. And she said, I'm going to send it to you. And she sent me it for free. And in the book, she talks about the universe in so much depth that I was so inspired, and I couldn't believe it. The second time I read it, I crossed out every time she said universe and I wrote God, because I realized that the prayers she was praying, I connected to them so much. And in the book, there was a faith statement. She says, write your faith statement and what it means to you, and keep that faith statement. Say it to yourself every day. Say to yourself, this is how I want to open up to the universe. And then I had written my own. People were coming to me and telling me about their health concerns. I had a friend who, she had a scare, but I felt like nothing was coming of it. She was afraid, and she had a lump and they had to cut it out, but there was nothing to say that it was going to go that far. I just had this urge to pray for her, to write prayers, to tell her this is not what you think it is. And people were messaging me going, thank you so much, I needed that. I really needed to hear that. And then she messaged me and she said, everything's fine, there's nothing to worry about, it's all done, it's done. And yeah, I started to learn that the free writing I have for myself is something that comes out of me so naturally. I was on the bus the other day and I was free writing on my Facebook post, and my friend messaged me and said, I love this, I have to share this post, I'm going to post it somewhere else. And I have these moments where I just randomly have this kind of urge to write, to grab my notebook on my phone. And I had silenced myself for quite a long time, and I looked in the mirror and I looked in the iris of my eye and I told myself, you look after you and everything's going to be okay. And it's kind of like a voice that I never let free, that was inside of me for a long time. So yeah,
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Like I said, I knew it would be a very inspirational show. Certainly is. We have run through our time here. How do people get a hold of you and learn more and get availability to the book once it's out?
so I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Yessica, YESSICA Jessica. My book is called Protected Awakenings, and it will be on Amazon very, very soon. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration. Great story.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. God bless.